We are live at 11:05. Exciting day for me. Hunting season's over, everybody's pretty healthy, and Eric is back. Eric is our main fiberglass, I say our main fiberglass guy. He's a guide on the river. And so most of the year he's out there guiding, but when he's not here, I'm kind of the pseudo lead fiberglass guy in the fiberglass shop. So I'm not the lead fiberglass guy in the fiberglass shop as of this morning, and I can go home and my wife won't be, Ann won't be going, and she's watching. Ann usually watches. She tells me, you know, you wore your good pants today. I'm on the phone with her, and how do you know that? Well, I seen the live at 11:05, so I won't go home with fiberglass. So pretty much I'm a rod builder, and today I am putting wires together. So we'll just go over some fundamentals of wiring. And I like to bench build it. I could do this on my back underneath the car, but it's a whole lot easier when I got my little chair, I got me a table, I got my parts and pieces and all the stuff right here. So I'll just kind of go through a little bit of how I wire and get ready to wire a car. And again, this will kind of be the Spirit way. And in case you didn't know, this is live at 11:05. Spirit Cars, I'm BC. Josh, the voice of Spirit Cars, is behind the camera there. And what I'm doing is I'm wiring a T-bucket. Simple wiring kit. This is a 12 circuit package.
12 circuit.
12 circuit package. We're an easy wire dealer. I like their kit. The wires all come in looms. I've unwrapped this one already and threw it out. It's the front loom. This goes to the back, and I've kind of pulled some wires and go back there. It's got a, and I've already kind of taken these. They were another loom that was just wrapped up, and I start putting it together. You got to snap in the wires. This is for the steering column, and for a GM column they're all the same. If you give us a Ford or a Chrysler, they're a little different, but the plug here, there's two different styles. This is the style we use on a Flaming River column. They're all A, B, C, D, well not A, B, C, I think it starts with G, D, E, F, and goes on. They've already come with a plug on the end. You just push it in, you snap this over. All this does is snap into your steering column then, and all your lights, your turn signals, your horn and all that is pre-done. Really nice. The kit itself comes with, did I knock them on the floor here? If you've got a steering column with the ignition switch in it, it's probably going to have two. These are GM style plugs. These plugs just plug right into the steering column, and that makes your ignition switch work. So it's got all your wires for that. So I just lop these off, throw them in the garbage. And we generally use an ignition switch of this style or this sort of type. Your ignition and your coil are going to be on the same one. Trace that back. I cut that wire. I cut all the wires. I put the ignition and coil on the same one back here, and then I just run them up. It's labeled on the back of your switch what's what, and then if you've done a few, you kind of know if you see the purple one on the starter side, it's going to be your starter and battery, and you know the orange one will be like accessories, and then this one's now my ignition. So I've got my switch all done, pre-done. I made sure that it's going to be the right length to go to the dash. Same with the headlight switch. It's got some looms coming off. Now in the headlight, you need to remember most of the kits, and first off, don't freak out over wiring. I would venture to say our most asked category question when somebody calls would be wiring.
Wiring, yes.
I mean, I'm constantly answering questions for wiring, and it's usually a simple answer, and I would say half the time, I don't know, that might be a good estimate, your problem's the ground. And fundamentally, if you don't know anything about wiring, and if you were a kid at one time and you played in the rain and the water was going down the hill, you probably made a little trough and the water ran down that new trough. And I even, actually yesterday it was raining, I went down to the pond and a little bit was going over the the top of the pond. I got a little spillway to the side, and there was a few logs blocking it, and a few, well, that would be like putting a resistor in it. So of course I was out there like a big kid, and I played around, I moved it around, and the water went flowing through again. The way electricity works, this is all DC power, no AC in a car, it's all DC, and on a car, red is positive and black is ground. So that's just a standard, red is positive, black is ground, and it's just like that water. It's going to take the easiest path of resistance, and it's going to go from positive to ground. And it's got to flow through that, and if your ground is not right, it's going to want to find a way to get to ground, and if it's at all possible, it'll take a new path. So especially in your lights or something like that, if you've got dim lights or say your flashers are showing, your flasher lights are showing dim when your light switch is on or something like that, it's probably a ground issue. So okay, I took my headlights, you got your light for a tail, headlight, dash lights, is that tail there, and tail lights, and then you got power, of course. And this switch here, this particular switch we use, it's got a fuse in it, so you got to be aware of that. If you happen to have a spirit car or spirit kit and your headlights quit working, well, maybe it's your fuse up there. It's not just your fuse in the fuse block. Most of the wiring kits do not come with the wire for your gauges. So remember to put that in. I run it through, terminated them all, and your headlight wire is probably going to say something like dimmer switch. So if it says dimmer on the dimmer lights on your headlight power, that is your headlight power. And without the dimmer switch, and it's already pre-wired in this particular the Easy Wire kit, without the dimmer switch being put in, your headlights will not work. I mean, so this pretty simple. When we do ours, we actually mount this headlight switch up and underneath the dash. So if I'm looking at the dash here, my wires are coming from this way. This is just out of sight, so I can reach up under with my left hand and push it with my hand. It's just a lot nicer. There's not a lot of room in a T-bucket to put this on the floor, and then you got to hide the wires. So that works really well, just as a hint. So I've added my dash lights, and I like to keep my loom clean, so I've taped it all together. I used to use looming, but you gain confidence the more you've done it. I don't know how many cars I've wired in the past, however many years I've done this for, 40 years, but there's more than a couple, so I've got a pretty good confidence of I've done this one like this and go. So if you're not real confident, you might not want to tape everything up all before you put it in. Just get it running, and you can use these little zip ties. You can kind of see here, I've taken my, these are my 3 wires for my high beam, low beam, left signal and right signal. I pulled them separate, so when I put them in, I'll have them come up to where the dash, all this is going to go into the dash, my headlight switch, my key. These, now I'm pre-wiring, and that's about where I'm at right now. I'm coming out, I've got a 5-gauge package. I'll pre-wire for my gauges. I kind of got it marked. I'll put my ends on, and so when I put this up under there, I'm going to basically have my wiring done. All I've got to do is terminate all the connectors. Now when you terminate a connector, that's a big thing. Alright, a lot of people, you can get your little crimper tool, cheap, and this is where the crimper tool, this cheap, goes, right here. Check this out, Josh, over here, see that? That's where those crimper tool go. You need to have a good crimp. And I just bought a new one because somewhere in the rafters here, I'm the guy that does the maintenance. So if we get a new piece of 3-phase equipment or whatever, I'm up in the rafters or running it. I think I've left my tool that I had for 30 years up in the rafters somewhere. Can't find it. But if you look at it, this is a really good. Matter of fact, let me get this one again. You can see the difference. If you look at the ends of those, this one's got that little notch with a round spot. This one just smashes it on that side. This actually indents it. And when you take and go to terminate, if you look in there, this is slit right here. So you don't want to put this part of the crimper on the slit side. You want the slit side down into the round, and then you want to push. So on the back side here, this is all solid round. So when I hit it, I've actually pushed in the full round, and then on the slit side, it didn't really smash that in. It just pushed it against that. So a good crimper. And then if you're going to solder, and a good soldering iron is a very valuable tool. So if you're going to solder, make sure, I mean, Weller's got a good product for a long time now. And then make sure you use some heat shrink. So if you're going to solder your wires, heat shrink here somewhere. Well, anyway, then it's one of those heat shrink, so you can solder your wires together and do some heat shrink. So if you want to do butt connectors like that or whatever, so either make sure you've got a very good crimp or solder them. Either way works good. So I've got my basic underneath the dash is going here. On this kit, and it's always this way, we use a pressure switch for our brakes, and it's an orange wire and a white wire, always is. This 12 circuit kit comes with a power antenna, which we never use. The power antenna comes up into the dash area. Well, I pull that power antenna wire, and oh, here we go. And I take, which these come up into the dash. Now, if you're going to use just a switch, like an old switch, a 50s Chevy truck has got a nice toggle or switch that you can put behind the brake pedal, and the pedal goes down, it hits the switch, and it turns the brake lights on. We don't do it that way. I take my orange and white wire, pull them out of my head or dash loom, push them down. This will be the loom that goes to the back of the car. I take my power antenna wire, since it's just about the right length. It's always purple. I attach it on, I pull it straight, cut it in half, run it down my back. What this is going to do is going to go to a pressure switch. Now this is a pressure switch that goes right into your brake line. There's this style, and there's another one that's just got a plug on that a single, it looks like a single, but it's and all this does, when these two wires touch together, your brake lights come on. When they come apart, your brake lights are off. So this, we run this to a brake switch, which would be a pressure switch in the brake line, which would go under the seat, so I can run it with the back of the car. Now, when we do the, and if Janelle's watching, thank you. She was concerned. That's Josh's wife. She works at the dam, so she works with tens of thousands of volts at a time. And so when I work here, when we do three-phase, it's only 460, but still, you can make a heck of a spark when you're in the box. So she bought me these fancy schmancy. I mean, they're all coated and everything. So anyway, I got fancy tools here. So thank you, Janelle, for that. I appreciate that. The back of this comes off. There's just a couple push pins here. So this is the back of my fuse block. Now if I take, and you can see these stick out a little bit, I can just cut this stuff off. I'm going to cut these off. Anyway, I'll have them cut off. And what I'll do is I'll take and run 2 screws into on the Spirit car again. You don't want to run through the outside of the dash, but we've got the insert. There's a space about that far between the insert and the firewall. We slip a piece of wood down in there, and I'll screw this on. So this is actually screwed and mounted underneath the dash, and just there in place, ready to go. Once I get this all built, done the way I like it, I can go ahead and just walk to the car. I'll have this one going this way, this one that way, everything going. And I just snap this snap it back in. It holds in. Put the cover on it, and my dash is all, or my fuse block is all totally installed. Easy, ready to go. Something you might want to do, I think it's a lot cleaner, you can do it either way. When you run your headlights, now this is the loom that goes to the front. I don't want all these wires necessarily going out the right side of the car. What I'll generally do, I'll put my fan, it's just FYI on the fan, you're going to have a fan ground up into under the dash. Now you can run your fan a couple different ways. If you just ground that black ground wire, and I've actually run a black ground wire up from just out of the loom. I added that wire to it, and I've got a black wire that comes down here somewhere. So this black wire is going to come down. Make sure I ground it to the chassis, and that's going to have all my wires, my dash lights, everything grounded. I've grounded the fan, which is underneath the dash, to this. Now you can either go with a switch, a temperature switch that you put in your block to turn your fan on and off based on the temperature, or you can have your fan turn on with the switch and turn off with the switch. And generally that's the way we do it. I know the fan went on when we turned the switch on, and there's no need for your fan to keep on running once you've parked your car and to get the temperature down. If you park your car, it's not going to get any warmer, it's going to go down anyway. So that's how we generally do it, but you can put the switch on the block, and the switch will turn the fan on and off, or your key can turn the fan on and off. You'll have a fan relay. If you just try to turn the fan on without a relay, it's going to draw too much initial power and probably blow your fuse. You can put on a separate relay, also a fan relay. A horn, kind of the same thing. You got a horn relay in here, but it's all built into the loom. So back to my front wires. I'm going to have wires here. I'm going to have this is probably, if I looked at it very closely because it's such a big wire, this will be the starter wire. Then I'm going to have an alternator wire. Well, I do not recommend, I highly, highly do not recommend that you run your alternator in through your fuse block and then to the starter, or wherever you're going to run it, to the alternator, I mean. I just take the wire off. When I take this apart, I can get to the back of this block. I cut them wires off of here. They're just not existent at all. When you run your alternator, run it on the outside of the car. The reason being, if you got 100 amps, 100 amp alternator, which most of them are now, if that wire smokes, if that wire starts burning, and you've got one wire in here getting hot and melting down, it's going to smoke your whole loom. It's going to possibly catch on fire. Run it outside the car. Run it from the alternator down around the frame, back up, and connect it right to the starter, because your battery is going to come around and connect to the starter. So I'm pulling that one out. There's some of these that I won't need here. There's an exciter wire. Most people are going to run the single wire alternator, so you won't need your exciter wire. You can take that out. Like I said earlier, purple is your starter, so this will go to the starter. Now you got a high beam and a low beam. And then the brown one will be your running lights. And then you're going to have a left and right turn signal, of course. Now these wires here, if you look at them, they're made to go down the car, and then once they get down the car a bit, they split. And then these two will do the same. Once they get down to, so this, you got your left high beam, it says left high beam here, but you're going to have a high beam on the right side and a high beam on the left side. You're going to have a low beam on the right side, a low beam on the left side. I take and nip these off right here, and I move this much closer to the loom. I'm making a big mess here. But I'll move it closer to the inside of the car. And then I'll split it and send it one of them to the right and one to the left. So I'll take and put all my starter wire, and I'll put my coil, and if I'm going to run a tack and all that, I'll put them all in one loom and go down the right side of the car. In a Spirit car, especially in a T, there's going to be a gap between that insert and the body, and you can run it straight down that. There'll be a little hole in the body by the floor there. You can run it out there, and you got those wires coming out the right side. I use my I put all my gauge wires out the right side, and I put my starter wires out the right side, and the power for basically the whole car I attach to the starter. So that's all goes down the right side. Then on the left side, I'm going to have my fan, I'm going to have my horn, I'm going to have just a few of the other wires will go out the left side of the car. So I'm going to split them. I'm going to have my, this is all the stuff that goes to the back. If I have a third brake light, the wire's in there. If I'm going to have my tail lights, my headlights. So I'm going to go down the left side and come down along, and I can run in the rocker. On the T-bucket, the rocker is actually open, so you can go down the rocker and you can put your battery from the battery box on the right side, down the rocker, come out the front, and connect it right to the battery. Kind of a lot of information here, but don't freak out. Just think about wiring. You do have to stay focused. Don't leave any loose ends. If I'm going to work in this section, I'll make sure I have things terminated, and try not to get up from the table. I'm in a situation I may have to get up from the table here 20 or 30 times during the day to look at something else or whatever. But when I'm wiring, I try to just stay focused. And if it's going to take you multiple days, I think, what do we get to wire a car? 6 hours, something like that?
Yeah.
For a T-bucket. So, and again, I don't know that I've done hundreds, but I've done a lot. So you become more confident the more you do, and we can get it wired in that amount of time. It may take you 10 hours or 12 hours or whatever it takes. Just don't be frustrated, and try to get to a stopping point. If you're going to end for the day, don't leave a gob of wires. Kind of leave them in the direction that they're going. When you come back to it, you're not looking at a big mess and trying to refigure out what was happening and where you were last. So get them tidy when they're under the dash. This looks a whole lot more tidy than gobs everywhere. If you feel very confident that you've got the wires right, go ahead and tape it. If you don't, you can always put it under the dash and make it work, and clean it up later, put some loom on it or whatever. That's about it for wiring. It's a big overview, but don't get frustrated. There's lots of Google's an amazing thing. There's lots of schematics that if you can read a schematic, just pull up how your different sections work. And in a lot of the kits, EasyWire has a book. I don't have one here handy, but well, here's a book that's got some, it's got some basic. Just follow where the wires go. It's the industry's made it pretty easy if you buy a kit to do it, and even if you didn't buy a kit, you can start a motor on the floor with 2 wires, so it's not that complicated. I think tomorrow, maybe, if you're interested in steering columns, I think we're going to show how to install a steering column in a Model A. We're doing that as Eddie's over there doing that, so we'll have that in the morning. We can show you how to do a steering column tomorrow for the 1105 in a Model A. So that would be, if you're interested in that, you don't want to miss tomorrow's show. Again, I'm not done. It's Christmas time. Again, if Ann's watching, I give up the TV for this season. We don't watch Fox News. We go to the sappy Hallmark TV shows. So there was one on yesterday where Grandpa Grinch was there. So I feel like I'm Grandpa Grinch. And the granddaughter reminded Grinch that he was there at Christmas dinner. So I was, or will be. We have some Christmas offerings here. These are cool. These are hand stripes. I mean, all of them old school. We did these, I don't know, Walmart Christmas ornaments with our little custom touches here. So we did these just in case you're into Hot Rod Christmas. We have got some old school striped Christmas ornaments. How much are these things?
$40.
So it's $40 a box. And if you've got a design or different colors that you just want, or I imagine we could do that, can't we?
Yes.
And or if you want this style, and this is all we have right now, if you want like bunches of these, I guess we could.
Yep.
I mean, you'd probably need to let us know fairly quickly, though, if you're wanting a bunch of them to decorate your tree. So we could do that. But so we have Christmas ornaments. It's Christmas time. Yeah. What else can we sell? Oh, I can sell this. Here's a Christmas gift. If you've got a spirit bucket, we haven't had these for a while. We just got a bunch from the Cromer. What did we get? Like 20 of them or something from the Cromer?
Yeah, 25 of them. We got 4 left.
There's 4 left, so that lasted about 2 days. So we'll be sending more at the Cromer. So this is a spring perch cover, chromed, and I don't know how much are these things.
$100.
$100 for
Yep.
this? Okay, so $100, chrome, pretty, goes on.
Double-sided tape.
Double-sided tape. Fits a spirit bucket. I mean, fits a spirit bucket exactly. If it's not a spirit bucket, it doesn't work. Okay, so we're there. I'm still full of turkey from Thanksgiving. Had an awesome Thanksgiving. Went hunting. We ate, man, we had squirrel. So we had squirrel, we had pheasant, and what else? We had
Smoked
a couple
trout.
Smoked trout, smoked salmon.
salmon.
We smoked salmon. Man, it was a feast. My brother was in. We just spent. It was a good time. So I hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. I found it. Coffee Break Contemplations. It's been missing for a couple weeks. So
It was in the rafters with the...
yeah, with my crimpers. So we usually finish. Friend of mine, Ernie, he wrote a couple of these books, Hot Rod Man. So we'll finish with that. If one wants wealth, all one must realize is the value of what one already possesses. Wealth will be instantaneous. Let me try that again, but that makes a lot of sense. If one wants wealth, all one must realize is the value of what one already possesses. Wealth will be instantaneous. So we have a lot of stuff. We are wealthy. We are blessed. So thank you, Lord. And thanks for being with us. See you tomorrow. Talk about a steering column.